If you are looking for your first volunteer opportunity or starting your volunteer journey, find something that brings you joy. It means volunteers should not be something to add in your to-do list. We have too much things going on. We are juggling every day with work, family, and Jasmina mentioned the time commitment. It's a time commitment, but at least find something that brings you joy, that you are going to enjoy.
Hello and welcome to Manage This, the podcast by project managers for project managers. We're so glad you've joined us today. My name is Wendy Grounds and my co-host is Bill Yates. VelociTeach has fantastic learning opportunities. It's a great way to earn PDUs and maintain your certifications. We're also excited to announce our newest course, the 80/20 Product Backlog Refinement. Some of you might remember our guests from episode 183, Richard Lawrence and Peter Green. Their insights were so engaging that we've teamed up with Richard to bring this course to Insight. 80/20 Product Backlog Refinement is designed for product owners, managers, and anyone steering in the direction of a product. This on-demand course is your key to mastering essential skills that will propel your product and team to new heights. If you've got questions about our podcast or project management certifications, feel free to reach out to us. We're here to help. We're talking to two very interesting ladies today. Maite Mata was born and raised in Spain, and she's an experienced PMO director who is now based in Salt Lake City in the USA. She has a master's degree in chemical engineering and has been a project manager in the technology sector, overseeing projects worldwide. She's motivated by a passion for strategic business development. She is committed to the project management community and is a dedicated board member at the Project Management Institute Northern Utah chapter. Together with our other guest, Yasmina Khalifi, they have written a book called The Volunteering Journey to Project Leadership, a pathway to improving leadership skills, broadening networks, and exploring new fields. So our other guest is Yasmina Khalifi, who is a French telecom engineer and project manager with 3 PMI certifications. She's been working in the telecom industry for 20 years and is also a passionate volunteer at PMI. She blogs regularly on projectmanagement.com and is a volunteer international correspondent at PM World Journal. She has a podcast called Global Leaders Talk with Yasmina Khalifi, and you can check that out if you want to hear more from her. So while we're talking to them today, we're going to look at volunteering and how you can get involved in volunteering and how volunteering can shape your project management careers. Yasmina and Maite, they share how volunteering has been a cornerstone in their paths and has enriched their experiences and opened up new opportunities for them.
This is going to be a great conversation. We've had some really interesting projects that come right up to the edge of volunteer work. I think of Saving Rhinos and the fun conversation we had, the Ocean Cleanup Project and the dedicated team that's pursuing that, BHAG, if you will. I think of Dave Maddox and the conversation we had with that project manager. He's doing project management for Project Cure for that organization. That's right. Fascinating stuff. And then even at the local PMI chapter level, we had conversations with several people, including conversation with Monique Sakon on that. Volunteering is a fantastic way to grow your skill set. I think we can all agree to that. But then practically, how do I go about it? How do I get into it? How do I pick the right volunteering opportunity for me? There's such great practical advice that these two are going to share with us. I can't wait to jump into the conversation.
Hi, Yasmina, and hello, Maite. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hello, nice to be with you today.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Yeah, we're excited to have you both on the podcast. It's not often we have 2 guests, so it just makes it a little bit more exciting, and we're really looking forward to hearing what you have to bring to the conversation about volunteering. Before we start, can you maybe take turns to share your personal journey of becoming project managers and how volunteering played a role in that journey?
Yes, so I will go first. So, I was an engineer and I became a project manager by accident because a manager proposed to me the position of a living colleague. And I accepted. It was a natural path in the technological company where I work. And at that stage, I didn't know at all what volunteering was. So I was immersed in the work, in the projects at work.
Yeah, in my case was something kind of similar than Jasmine. I have a background in chemical engineer. I was hired for one of the top 5 technology companies to be a business analyst. And from there, the project manager led the project. I took the role of project manager, and for them, project, program, portfolio, PMO director. That's my career path. And really, volunteer was the one that helped me to move to the different steps on the project and program management profession.
It's so interesting that you both come from an engineering perspective too. That is a common path for project managers, but many times it comes with resistance. I really like the science side of engineering. I don't know if I want to manage people. So we may get into that as we talk about volunteers as well, but that's a very interesting beginning.
What were some of your first volunteering experiences, Yasmina?
Yes, in fact, I have to be honest, I began with the hard ways, I would say, because I didn't know at all what volunteering was. And when I began to volunteer, I had a lot of ideas. And I thought, well, it's not a company. So it's freedom of ideas, freedom of doing different things. But a volunteering organization is an organization with roles, projects to prioritize, initiatives. So it was a big surprise for me. And also I was very passionate because it was new. It was very motivating for me. And I was pushy to people. For example, I work in a newsletter to coordinate the content, and I wanted the new volunteers to be highlighted in the newsletters. I pushed all the pictures and roles to the volunteer graphic designer, and he didn't include them. So then I created myself, but I'm not a graphic designer. So when he saw the result, he was not very happy because he told me, I have to do everything. And it's a lot of work also to have all the volunteers highlighted. And I don't like this way of working. It was a bit how I worked. And also by volunteering, I discovered I could share a lot of knowledge. So I made a first webinar, something completely new in English, remotely with a friend in Dubai. And then during the webinar, there was a WhatsApp group and people were saying, I do not understand what she's saying. But I was very courageous. So I was talking louder. After, of course, I was devastated. I thought, okay, all my English, how can I improve it? It's not possible, YouTube, because it's my accent. And when I received the recording, I couldn't understand myself, not because of the accent, but because of the sound. The sound was very bad. It was not high speed internet connection at that time. I didn't have an external mic. It was awful. So, it's a kind of experiences I had in volunteering. I think Maite had more positive experiences to share.
Yeah, it's very fun how both of us in this collaboration learn from each other, because I did a few things while I was in Spain, typical during holidays, supporting some kind of food banks and small initiatives and things like that. However, when I moved to Utah, things hit kind of different because I didn't know anyone. So I tried to look for communities where I could feel that I belong. It's very hard change from moving from Europe to the United States. So initially, I focused in finding diversity where I can connect with kind of diverse people. I joined the TEDx Salt Lake City event. Are you familiar with the TED Talks? Mm-hmm. So we have a local event here in Salt Lake City. I joined that community where I was able to work with people from different backgrounds and learn at the same time how to lead diverse teams, because each of us were from a different background in a professional environment. I usually hang out, as you mentioned before, with engineers, project managers, business analysts, developers. So in that kind of settings where I was with a tarot reader, a formal sex worker, with someone that is an accountant, a graphic designer, AV people, putting all that people together helped me to learn how to lead teams in a more inclusive environment. However, I was also developing my career in project management. So I was looking for volunteer opportunities that helped me in that professional development. I joined the PMI Northern Utah chapter, and that was amazing because not only helped me to grow professionally, also helped me to network in a professional environment. And that was these two first opportunities here in Utah that helped me to grow professionally and also to support my willingness to have that feeling of belonging, if that makes sense.
It's so interesting. When I was looking forward to this conversation, I was thinking about the advantages that come from volunteering, and specifically for project managers. And you guys are hitting on some of those keys, like networking that you've mentioned, and also skill development. The safety that you have in volunteering. Yasmina, you mentioned freedom. There's a freedom in volunteer work where you can try different things. You can, hey, I don't naturally network, but now I'm going to. Or I have a second language that I'm developing, and I can do that in this volunteering environment. It's really exciting for me to hear your personal experiences of how you could take a different environment, not a work environment, a volunteer environment, and build up your skills in different areas that way. And I wanted to ask more about those transferable skills. If you think about examples of transferable skills that you developed through volunteering, what are some other examples you could share with the audience?
I think Maite already mentioned something very important, and I have the same experience, is communication.
Right.
Because like Maite, I work in a very technological company, and I work mainly with engineers. And when I began to volunteer, I worked with people who were very true marketers. And the way I work, the way we work also at work, when we have something to do, I prepare a file, a Word document or an Excel file. I share the file, and I say, don't hesitate to put your comments, and then we are going to talk about them. And when I sent to a woman in the chapter, and she told me, I'm sorry, it's hard for me to think like this in Excel. It's better if we can talk together. In fact, it will be easier for me. And I thought, oh yes, that's correct. I have to accept different ways of doing and working. And that is what also you mentioned in terms of diversity, freedom of trying new things, and forcing myself to try new things. In fact, because at the end it has to work, and we do not have so much time to execute and deliver the project.
That's true what Jasmine is saying, because really, and what you mentioned too, we talked a little about that in the book, in the Volunteering Journey to Project Leadership, that we use the volunteering as a sandbox, as a place where we can experiment, when we can try new things. So in my case, I think that the most transferable skill that I've gained was the ability to transition from doing to leading. My transition career, as I mentioned, was from business analyst, that you have your hands in the system, to a project manager when you need to lead. So this transition was very easy for me through my volunteers opportunities, because I was able to practice how to delegate properly and trust others. Because at that point, I was not the person doing the business analyst. So I needed to learn first how to delegate, to trust others, and how to guide all the team towards the same goal. That's something that I gained, is this transition from doing to leading. Because you can start practicing in this sandbox of volunteering, and after all the learnings, you can apply in your day-to-day jobs, and you can test different things.
And I think it helps because it's, for me, it was a completely new context.
Yeah.
In fact, and because it's a new context, I had a kind of reset, I would say. So I think my brain was more open also. And I think it's something also, when we discussed with Maite, and that's why we had this great collaboration about the book, webinars and articles, is to really force ourselves to remain open-minded. Because if you talk to anyone, you say, are you open-minded? Everyone is going to answer yes. Of course, we are all open-minded.
Yes.
But when we begin to work, to interact with new people, then we become aware, perhaps I should improve this way, the way I communicate, or the way I listen, or the way I accept also feedback, perhaps. And I think all these experiences are very rich in terms of human development, which is needed when you work as a project leaders.
So true. And I think for many of us, and I'm sure the listeners can relate, you get used to your way of working at your particular company, and you may have been there for quite a while. And things can get stagnant and we need to take a fresh look. We need to have a sandbox where it is a safe place for us to try different skills that maybe are not as developed as others. And we need to see fresh perspectives. And then I may learn something that I can apply back to my paying job from that experience. It's good.
I just love the way you describe it, that sandbox experiment.
Yep.
So how has it helped you become better leaders? Maite, you did mention leadership skills that you have developed through volunteering. Can you give us some examples of how you've adapted your leadership skills through this?
Yeah, so I truly believe that the two volunteer experience that I mentioned, the Salt Lake City and the PMI chapter, helped me a lot because there were different teams and different challenges. For example, at TEDx, I learned how to lead diverse groups of people, ensuring that each of the ideas were valued. Something that sometimes in the room you have some people that is more shy and talk a little less. I learned how maybe this quiet person in the meeting room has amazing ideas. So how to ensure this collaboration, how to ensure that everyone's ideas were valued while keeping the focus on the goals and not hijacking meetings and things like that. I think that was one of the biggest learnings through that and how I was able to adapt quickly. Another experience at TEDx Salt Lake City, I'm a project manager. I'm all about Excel files, risk management, step 1, 2, and 3. But there are things that you cannot plan in a 3,000 people event. So we had planned a food truck lunch in an outside theater and it started raining because it was September.
Oh.
We didn't think about that. So that agile mindset that all the people say, I'm super agile. No, in this case, when you need to find very fast solutions, forget all your spreadsheets. Step 1, 2, and 3, where are you going to put 3,000 people for lunch if it's raining? So this kind of different experience that make you think outside of the box really helped me to grow because you are more ready in your day-to-day projects. Doesn't matter if are marketing projects, event projects, finance projects, or technology, because you are stretching your brain. You are stretching your capability to be more adaptable. On the other hand, at the PMI Northern Utah chapter, I took a board position. It helped me in my career to participate in strategic planning and mentoring, something that I didn't have the opportunity when I took the board position to do on my work. So it helped me to grow as a leader because I was able to participate in strategic decisions or manage budget that I am not able to do in my day-to-day opportunities or in my day-to-day job. And also helped me to grow as a project manager. So I wanted to highlight these two experiences because they are completely different. In one, I manage an event and you manage risks that you are not expecting, rain. And in the other hand, you have this professional development when you are part of a board member. And as a project manager, we usually don't take decisions. We help our stakeholders to take decisions. But in that case, you are the one that takes the decision. So you participate in this strategic thinking.
Yes, I agree, fully agree with what Maite said. During my volunteering experiences, in terms of leadership, I could also work with new cultures, new nationalities. I work in a very international environment, but I couldn't work with all nationalities. And also in my case, if I get back to the English language, I could improve from my point of view, the way I communicate and I talk in English to articulate well, to slow down, and also the written communication in English, because I also wrote some articles, some blogs for newsletters. The other important thing I discovered through volunteering is how to manage change. For example, I joined a social media team, and then the way they were organized, there was a graphic designer making all the visuals. I thought, okay, but when he leaves, what is going to happen? So I began to tell the team, perhaps we shall have some templates. And one person in the team told me, it's not our culture here. It's not going to work. That's not our way of working. But what happened? The graphic designer left. So I said, okay, perhaps I can help a bit. If there is a graphic design software, we can use it. You have a lot of models. Let's try it, in fact. And little by little, this software was introduced, and then new people came to the team, and they understood the power of having templates to have handover, to onboard new people. So I think for me, it was I was very happy, in fact, but also it was a discovery because when the person told me also, it doesn't work like this here. Well, sometimes I tend to, as I told you, to be pushy, to be passionate. I said, okay, here I have to listen, to be quiet, to say, okay, I have to follow what the rule is and to see. And then after I see that you introduce change by collaborating, by showing the true benefits rather than saying, okay, we need to change things. Let's do like this, like this, like this. So for me, it was also, it was great experiences and memories.
Did you become a project manager by accident? Are you loaded with technical experience, but you don't know the fundamentals of project management? Many of our listeners find themselves working as project managers without ever having applied for the position. If that's you and you're trying to get up to speed as quickly as possible, we're here to help. Learning the fundamentals of project management can increase your chances of successfully delivering projects on time, within budget, and meeting stakeholder expectations.
Project management fundamentals are the core principles, practices, and techniques that are the foundation for effective project management. Knowledge of these fundamentals will help you identify your project's objectives, scope, deliverables, and success criteria.
If you want to learn how to define the scope and goals of your project, how to create a schedule, draft a budget, integrate risk by identifying and assessing the project's uncertainty, take a look at the VelociTeach course, Project Management Fundamentals by Andy Crow.
This course also focuses on leadership components, such as communication excellence and the very essence of project management, knowing how to lead a team. Understanding the fundamentals allows you to approach your projects with a structured and organized methodology, increasing the likelihood of project success.
I'm picking up on this theme of flexibility and learning and adaptability that you both have learned from your volunteering experiences, and you've grown from it and then become a better leader and a better team member even as a result of that. So kudos to you both for your growth in that. And I can completely relate. I've been very involved in volunteering and I've had great experiences and I've had some that have been frustrating. Let me ask this question. How has volunteering opened doors for you in terms of building relationships or building stronger networks?
Well, for me, I dared to network more because I was sometimes shy, for instance, in conferences. Now I can talk more easily to people I don't know and to introduce myself. And through volunteering, I have really an international network. When I need to have a piece of information about a new certification I'm interested in, I can reach out to my network and have more information. Perhaps some of your listeners may also think, how does it help to find a new job, a new role, to get more money? In my case, it was not my initial goal. So I love also languages. So for me, it's a way to network with different people, to practice my languages. But perhaps unfortunately, I didn't make a business case to have a return on investment, on this. So that's my reality and my experiences.
Yeah, I want to say that the last time that we were in Los Angeles together for the PMI Global Conference, I crossed my path with Jasmine and I heard her speaking Japanese. And it was like, you also speak Japanese? She spoke 6, 7 languages, Jasmine. I don't know how many. But yes, sometimes we speak in Spanish. Sometimes I try to refresh my French. But the Japanese was something that really surprised me because she was speaking with a group of Japanese. And it's like, you are not improved how you network in the last years that we cross our path in conference. You also are practicing your skills in different languages. So I was, wow, I was like, that was Japanese, Jasmine. So yeah. In my case, really volunteering has transformed Salt Lake City. As I mentioned, I'm based in Salt Lake City, Utah, into a small lake city. And my initial goal, as I mentioned, was to feel that I belong. And after 9 years here, it transformed constantly how I live, because it doesn't matter if I am in the grocery store or I am going to a soccer game or a Utah Jazz game, I always find a friend. And that's very nice that you cross your path with some familiar faces. And I can go alone to events without my family because I will find someone that I know. So it's making Utah more fun for me. And it's also helped me to open doors, not only for speaking engagements, also for job opportunities. The last jobs that I found was through volunteer. Someone put my resume in front of the hiring manager because as I have an accent, and that accent is not traditional Utah accent, sometimes through the screening process, I get nervous and I talk. As you can see, I talk a lot. And with the HR screening, it's a deal breaker for me. So when I was looking for job transitions and things like that, it was very easy for me through someone that I network in the project management community. They say, hey, we are hiring. And it was easy to apply for a job position because I didn't go through the HR screening process because I always find it very, very challenging. So that's my two things that I wanted to highlight. One is that helped me to feel that I belong to this state because I can go everywhere and find someone. And the second one is the networking really helped me to find job opportunities. And I think that that's super important.
Yeah, those are excellent examples. And it kind of leads into what we wanted to discuss in the next question, how this has helped you in your careers. You have written a book together entitled The Volunteering Journey to Project Leadership. And you discuss how volunteering helps project managers, professionals grow in their capabilities and in their careers. Can you share some compelling reasons why this would be beneficial to them? And what types of activities you recommend they get involved in if they're looking to volunteer?
Yeah, so I will take this question because volunteering offers the project management professionals different ways to grow their skills, leadership skills, expand their networks. However, I think that the most important thing is to focus in your career. So in the volunteer journey of project leadership, we outline how volunteer can align in the different steps. Because, for example, early in a career professional, they are just starting. What they want to achieve through volunteering, they want to build the foundation, basically. The skills like planning, scheduling, team collaboration. These are things that you don't learn by passing the PMPA test or by doing a master's in project management. So we talk a little in the book how to lead a small project and volunteer to manage, for example, a community event. If you are passionate about dogs, or managing a project or an event for a dog shelter, maybe that gives you joy and give you the opportunity to lead a small projects. It also, you can look for projects to improve communications. For example, as Jasmina mentioned, join a group to do public speaking, such as Toastmaster, a local project management chapter, or things like that. So those two will be for early career professionals. But for example, if you are in a mid-career, you are looking for different things. So in this case, volunteering can help you more to this execution to the leadership, to grow leadership skills. For example, maybe you don't manage teams. So you can look for opportunities where you are a manager of a group of volunteers. You can practice, as we mentioned before, these sandbox skills, how to manage people, how to lead a team, how to practice with different kinds of stakeholders. But also, it's not only managing teams. As a mid-career professional, you need to improve your strategic thinking. So what you should do, you should look for an organization and take roles where you can contribute in the planning or the decision making. In this mid-career, you are moving forward to growing as a senior leader, but you are practicing. You are practicing before that role arrives because you will have all the skill set and you will be ready for the job opportunity. I'm a project management office director. So people say, hey, you are done. You are already a director. What is the next step? What you can learn from volunteer? And now is when I choose the mentorship. You are ready to mentor others. You are ready to share your knowledge. You are ready to guide upcoming project managers and give back all the things that you gain through volunteering. But also you are in a position to drive organizational change. Because in these volunteer leadership positions, for example, you are very passionate about arts. Maybe you can take a board position in an arts event and manage and drive organizational change. For example, when you design a strategy or improve processes in organizations that need that change. So for me, it's very important to understand where are you in your career? What do you need to improve? What is your next step? And how through volunteer, you can be ready for this next step.
And what Maite and I have experienced, and when we talk to a lot of volunteers and to prepare the book, we talk with more than 100 volunteers and we had surveys. And what is also important, for instance, Maite is a board member. I'm not a board member. I'm volunteering in different associations because I wanted, in my case, to discover, to practice language, to discover different environments. So it is my choice. You have to have clear goals in your career and then you volunteer. You can still volunteer, and you have to volunteer because you like it, because you can make new friends. If at the same time it can help your career, it's okay,
Right.
of course. So I think you have different ways of looking at your volunteer experiences. But really the most important thing for me is, as we said in our experience, is to go out of your current environment. For me, it's very important because this is a way of being more adaptable.
That's so good. When you're volunteering, sometimes that gives you the opportunity to see the full landscape, including the strategic decisions that are made for that project. You know, many of the project managers that we train, they'll tell me, I don't have a lot of budget control. So budgeting is interesting, but I just don't get to do much with it. You know, I provide a few reports up to the finance group. Same thing with procurement. It might be, you know, we have some other subcontractors that are working with us, but I don't really choose them. They're selected through the procurement group or through legal. If it's a volunteer project, then typically, you know, it's a smaller thing and you're having to put on many hats and you may get experiences that you've never had in your paying job. So there's such a breadth. Those are great advantages.
Yeah, and it's true. It will keep you prepared for your next step in the career because maybe in your actual role, as you mentioned, you don't manage vendors or you don't manage budgets, but who knows where will you be next year? Maybe you find your dream job and during the interview, they ask you, tell me a time that you have an issue with a vendor. So maybe you don't have in your real job, but you have an answer because you did that in the volunteer experience. And you can say, in my actual role, I don't have this experience. However, during my volunteer time in ABC organization, I had this challenge, and you can drop names of vendors that are very known for events management or are very known for the having merchandising material or whatever you are looking for that fits that interview. So you are playing the game a little early than it should be in your professional development. And maybe you think, oh my gosh, I don't like that. I don't like vendors. I don't like budget. I don't like hotel decisions. And then you decide, I don't want to be a director.
That's right.
I don't want to be a manager. I only want to be the best project manager ever. I want to be a subject matter expert. So then you learn in the volunteer environment. You are not taking a role, a high paid job, and you say, oh my gosh, I really don't like that.
Yes.
I'm having a 9 to 5 and this, I cannot handle it. Because you experienced that before, you know what is coming.
That's good. You play in the sandbox and you find out what you enjoy doing and what you don't.
So now we have our project managers who want to start their volunteering journey. What are some practical steps that they can take? What advice would you give them so they can find the right opportunities that would suit them?
Yes, I think what is important is really to identify what you want to experience, to experiment, what you want to learn. And what also is important is to be realistic about your time commitment. Because sometimes when you are passionate, you say, okay, I'm going to be a board member because I like this, I would like to experiment, I would like to try out new things, to be bold. But being a board member, when talking with Maite and other board member, it is a lot of work and a lot of commitment, and you are not paid. In fact, so
You volunteer.
much harder also. And one other point I discovered also is the expectations that is linked to that. Because if you are a board member, perhaps you didn't really discuss the expectation and someone told me, you know, we have a meeting once a week, 1 hour. Okay. But after that meeting, there is work to do. You need to synchronize with a lot of people. And as I told you, some people, they like emails and others not. They are going to tell you, yes, you have to call me at 9 p.m. in the evening. For me, it's very hard, 9 p.m. in the evening. It's better 5 a.m. in the morning, but not many people like 5 a.m. So you see, there are a lot of small things that if you don't ask the questions about the time commitment, the expectation, also the level of quality. We talked a lot about the sandbox. It doesn't mean when you volunteer, you have to deliver bad things. No, that is not what we are saying. In fact, people really rely on you. And if you cannot do it because of the skills, because usually in the volunteer setting, you have someone who knows how to do it, who can help you. Sometimes you have also to learn by yourself. And sometimes it's fun because you are learning new things by yourself. But it means also you have to know what is expected. And volunteering, it's not, from my point of view, it's not a work. But when I talk sometimes to some organization are people, sometimes in some organization, in some teams with some people, volunteering is like a work. And they expect the same level of quality, which is okay if I know the level of quality required.
So I really wanted to say that I align with that first, finding something that aligns your goals, understand your time commitment. But I also want to add something. If you are looking for your first volunteer opportunity or starting your volunteer journey, find something that brings you joy. It means volunteers should not be something to add in your to-do list. We have too much things going on. We are juggling every day with work, family. And Jasmina mentioned the time commitment. It's a time commitment, but at least find something that brings you joy, that you are going to enjoy. So in the book, what we introduce is something that we call the volunteer canvas, that it's a tool that will help you to organize your ideas. Does this organization fit your values, or the mission of this organization, something that is going to give you joy? For example, if you are allergic to dogs, why you are going to volunteer to a dog shelter? It will not bring you joy. Maybe it will bring you more EpiPens, carrying more EpiPens with you. So it's a one-page canvas tool that people can help to organize their ideas and guide them to defining what are your aspirations, what is a good opportunity to me, and how I can plan that to make it impactful and fulfilling.
Mm-hmm. You know, so many of the points that you both have brought up just resonate with me. And to your point, do that which brings you joy, and think about the goals and make sure that your personal goals align with the organization and it is something you're passionate about. Just recently, I spoke at a PMI, a local chapter event, and I think of Naraya and Josephine. They were the leaders who were putting so much time and prep into this, and they did everything from, the public speaking, the announcing, introducing me as a speaker, follow up and all that. But they're picking up pizza on the way to the event. They're making sure that the seats are set up properly. There's a lot of roll the sleeves up and do the hard work. There's not a lot of glamour behind it. Go into those volunteer positions knowing what to expect. Talk to those who've been in those roles ahead of you so that you make sure that you're choosing the right thing where you can do something that brings you joy and that you feel true fulfillment in.
Do either of you have a memorable volunteering experience, just a story about something that has brought you joy?
I can write a book about that. But I have to mention that the book is not a memoir because we have a lot of volunteer experience that Jasmina mentioned. But something very, very memorable will be the first time that I volunteered. And that ties what you were mentioned, to being a speaker for a chapter. So the first time that I volunteered to give a public speaking presentation for the PMI North Utah chapter, so I just moved from Spain to here. I did public speaking engagements in Spanish. I didn't know the culture. I didn't know how people will react to my accent. So I volunteered. I thought that was a small gathering. It was almost 250 people. And I was after a super keynote famous speaker. And that was challenging because the experience pushed me really out of my comfort zone. When I saw this professional, very great keynote speaker, and after they introduced me, I was like, oh my, how we will do that? It was very challenging, but it really taught me something about preparation, confidence, and how to connect to the audience. It was a great learning moment for me. That was 7 years ago. And now it doesn't matter for me. If I have 10 people in the room, 250, 500, I'm okay. But that's one of the most memorable volunteer experience that had a real impact on me.
Yes, I think it's very interesting what Maite is saying, because I think volunteering also gives you passion sometimes to really go outside of your comfort zone. Sometimes when we prepared, Maite and I talked outside the PII in Los Angeles as a summit for the first time. And when I prepared, etc., sometimes I thought, what I'm doing here, really, because it's unpaid. And it's a lot of work, and a lot of people, family told me, but why did you apply exactly to do this? And at the end, it pushes you to make things you will never thought you could do, like writing a book, having a webinar. We did also a webinar in Spanish for the community with Maite. Maite is native Spanish, but I'm not. In fact, so you do a lot of things that sounds completely crazy when you think rationally, and when you go back to work and people tell you, oh, you did this kind of things. I said, yes, I tried. They are very surprised. And for me, memorable experiences is really unexpected collaborations. You know, you meet someone in a webinar and you talked a little bit and after you say, oh, let's do a webinar together or let's write an article. And I think all this great collaboration completely unexpectedly and remotely are really great memories for me.
Yeah, like Jasmina, when we met, I remember that I told Jasmina, we will never meet in person. It's impossible. It means you are in France, I am in Utah. We wrote an article, did a webinar, and 3 years later, we crossed our path in a global conference. So the first thing that she told me instead of hello was like, see, we are meeting in person. So that unexpected of volunteering gives so much joy and adrenaline high to both of us that it's amazing.
Won't you just tell us briefly about your book and how that's going to help project managers?
The book will help because it's a compilation of experience of different people. And it's not only that they will have real examples to start volunteering, or if you are middle career, how to grow. It's also that they will have these real examples and they will have tools that we create based on the experience of a lot of people. I think that we mentioned more than 100 people, but we had surveys, we had interviews, we went to conference and chat with other volunteers. And that helped us to build something that is kind of a how-to, but with real examples. Based on all these people, we have real tools to support them. We have real business cases that will help the people to find their next step in the volunteer journey. Doesn't matter if they are starting or if they are seasoned volunteers, but there is something missing. So they can help project managers to grow in their career path.
Yeah, and I want to say we really make it very practical to try to give as much value as possible to the readers. And I can tell you itself, it's also a project. And it's not in isolation we did it. It's not Maite and I. We had a full community of support. We shared the book. We listened to feedback. And sometimes the feedback, sometimes people say, no value in what you are writing here. What do you want really to say? It's not easy to receive, but it was true. So we had to work harder to improve the book. So I think, yes, writing a book is really a hard project. I said, okay, it must be easy, but it's not easy at all.
Yeah, and it's not only that we wrote the book, it's that we are published. That's something that I am very, very proud. And Jasmina was very perseverant when we started this journey. And I'm very happy that one of the publishers trust us and thought that was something that add value to the community. I'm very proud of our work and that a publisher trusts the work behind that.
If our audience wants to get in touch with either of you, where should they go?
I think that LinkedIn is the best way. We are very active. Both of us are very active. We share a lot of tips about project management. We highlight other people. I think that is the best way. And we usually try to answer to the people that ask questions to follow up after an interview or follow up questions about the volunteer journey and things like that.
Thank you both for spending this time with us and helping us understand some of the challenges that will come with volunteering, many of the benefits that come with volunteering, even down to the practical that you've shared and have in the book as to, okay, these are the benefits. Now I can explain these to my manager when I need to ask them to leave just a little bit early on Thursday afternoon so I can go to this event that is a volunteer event. Here are the reasons that this is how I'm going to grow. This ties right back to my performance review. This is an area I want to grow in. This is a way to do it, boom, boom, boom. And just the practical thoughts too of, treat this like a sandbox, but make sure it's something that brings you joy and something that you can bring value to. Great stories that you shared, very inspiring. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you for having us. It was very fun.
Thank you very much, Bill and Wendy. It was amazing.
That's it for us here on Manage This. Thank you for joining us. You can visit us at velociteach.com, where you can subscribe to this podcast and see a complete transcript of the show. Now for our chance to give back. You've earned real free PDUs by listening to this podcast. To claim them, go to velociteach.com, choose Manage This Podcast from the top of the page. Click the button that says Claim PDUs and click through the steps. Until next time, stay curious, stay inspired, and keep tuning in to Manage This.